Smarketing CONNECT podcast. I am your host, the co-founder and CEO of Smarketing CONNECT, Tom Libby. And today I have Mark Carter with me. And typically, Mark, we love for people to introduce themselves. So I'm not going to give everybody your bio. I'm not going to do all that reading and to tell everybody all the wonderful things about you. I'll let you do that for yourself. So why don't we just jump right in and tell us in a few sentences, tell us a little bit about yourself.
In a few sentences about myself, I've been interviewing people for business for 25 years, been in the event space for 20 years. And when I do events, I love to do interactive events, especially when the live ones now that things are coming back. So it's the live interactive events. And then as far as other offerings, it's all about interviewing people, helping them showcase their genius, get them comfortable on camera, bring out their genius, bring out their stories, get them some good videos for their marketing, some good videos for internal use. And the big part about that, like I said, is just them telling stories impromptu and really letting energy come through in the interview and letting them get excited about it. I love interviewing people, and everything I do in some way, shape, or form now involves interviewing people.
So I have to ask, does it make you feel any odd, like is there oddities or awkwardness being on the other side, now you being the one being interviewed, or do you feel comfortable on both sides of the coin?
I'm comfortable on both sides of it. I prefer to to do the interview because I've been doing it for so long. But I've done enough podcasts as the interviewer. People started asking me to interview me about interviewing, so it was kind of meta when I got in the recent string of podcasts. But I'm comfortable on camera either way now.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about, let's talk a little bit about, like, you gave people some indication as to what you do, which is great. I love what you do, by the way. And so, but now, so what are the types of companies that you work with? And you can classify them however you want, like whether it's this, it has to be a big company, small company, solopreneurs, and like, or if it's types of companies, meaning you really want to work with, technology companies or service-based companies. Like, give us some indication of like who does the best, who do you do the best work for?
Definitely B2B privately held service companies, like consulting. It's a broad stroke, but it's they're in front of businesses, they're working with businesses. So definitely the B2B service companies. I have a newer offering as people approach me, organizations, again, B2B, but membership based, that focus on entrepreneurs that want a podcast, but they realize you can't just plug in a microphone, turn on a camera, and necessarily get a good interview. Just like you can't from the event space, I realized you can't just put someone in a suit or a pantsuit, throw them on stage and get a good keynote. So it's organizations like that I've been talking to that have followed my podcast. We just we were talking about it beforehand, just recorded episode 100, that said, we need a podcast, but we, if there's a leadership team, are not going to be the host. We're going to bring you in, and then it's showcasing the genius of their centers of influence, their members, their leadership team. And again, back to telling stories and also the how-to. I'm really big on how-to. I stay away from what I call daytime fluff. There's a time and place for it when you have the chips and dip and you want to relax. Totally get it. When I do the interviews, it's always how to find your next mentor, how to sell your next big idea, things like that. So that's the type of videos they get. And for the podcasts, the interviews are showcasing the genius of their network and their membership. And the point of it is to get someone to say, wow, after they watch a couple of them or listen to a couple of them, just to be able to realize, like, if that's the type of person involved with the group, I think I want to be part of that group. So they're walking the walk, talking the talk without bragging about themselves, or just answering questions that I have for them.
So that answer, by the way, was great, but the answer was unfair because it just negated one of my questions for you. It totally took out. I'm going to ask it anyway, just so for the audience's perspective, we can get it singled out, just so but I was going to ask you about what are some of the challenges that these companies face and why they bring you in. And I feel like you just answered that a second ago with a clip there. I'm not going to repeat it because I'm going to have you just repeat it a little bit. But so what challenges would a small business owner or operator ask you to come in to help them solve? Just be specific about that one thing.
This is the same for events. I do very interactive events. So that started with, I started my own organization for young entrepreneurs many, many moons ago. When I moved to Chicago, I couldn't find it, so I started it. And I was doing, everything was interactive and whiteboards, and I didn't even know what they were called at the time, but I was doing mastermind groups. And people started saying, hey, we want you to do that for us. So what the challenge is with the event space is we need something beyond a talking head on stage or 5 talking heads for 5 hours. We need something different, and we need someone to facilitate an interactive experience. So their challenge is, we've been there and done the stereotypical speaker for 45 minutes, 10 minutes of Q&A, 30 minutes of networking, wine and cheese, and then everyone leaves. We need something different. And beyond that, the challenge is we really need to engage with our membership more. And this is where it parlays into the podcasting too.
Yeah.
But we're not sure what to do. We don't just want to send out email blast after email blast. How can we engage them and attract new members? And well, if you have a live event experience, and now people do it virtually, I do virtual facilitation now too. They're saying we got to stay in front of our current audience, get in front of potential members or potential clients, and we need to go about it in a different way. What do we do? And that's what they bring me in for, is the problem I solve. I make it a completely interactive, immersive experience, not just talking heads on a camera for a podcast or on a stage for a conference.
Awesome. Awesome. So I'm going to switch gears a little bit. I'm going to ask you about something that's a little bit more, that's going to give our audience a little bit more actionable item right out the gate. So a piece of advice from you when it comes to what do you feel like, because you yourself are also a small business owner, right? Like you're not, it's almost like, a hair club for men. I'm also a client anyway. But when you think about small business tools and you think about must-haves, like every small business has got to have a tool that does this or a tool for that or what have you. Give us something that, like, some piece of advice you would give to a small business owner that's just starting out, that you say, if you don't have this, you could be putting yourself behind the 8 ball. So go get it. What kind of must-have tool would you recommend to them?
Relationship building skills, hands down. If they're
Okay.
really young and really new, the only way to do this, I'd love to say there's a silver bullet or an easy way, is start going to networking events. And again, now they're live, they're virtual. It's easier to go to them now because so many are virtual. It's building relationships in the sense of creating the relationship, building on the relationship, and then ultimately leveraging the relationship. If you're selling a product or service, leverage relationships and build trusted advisors and referral sources, so people are giving you warm introductions and you're not always hustling. I look at it as graduating from some networking events. You shouldn't have to, in all capital letters, have to go to networking events after you've been in business a while to build your business. You should have a stockpile of what I mentioned, trusted advisor and referral sources that can maintain your business and keep it going. You build new relationships. Of course, you meet new people, but it's not like, oh my God, if I don't meet 5 new people this week and close 2 of them, I'm in trouble. It's got to be building relationships the right way. And then, like I said, maintaining them and ultimately leveraging them. So relationship building skills.
Perfect. Perfect. I love that. Love it. And I agree with it, by the way. I agree 100%. So on that same lines, my next question is more about advice. It's still advice, so I still want it to be actionable, but a tremendous amount of small business owners will outsource some portion of their sales and or marketing to an agency or a consultant or a coach or something like that. If you met somebody that was telling you that they're about to engage in with one of those types of people, what kind of advice would you give them to look out for or look to or want to, questions you should ask them before hiring a sales or marketing consultant or a sales and marketing agency?
Definitely to see their past work. Whatever you're going to hire them for, ask to see work. If it's work that's done behind the scenes, then case studies. In my case, it's very visual, so that's why I have a YouTube station. That's why I have the podcast, so people can get a flavor for my interviewing skills. If you're going to hire an agency, it's really simple. It's I want to see if it's creating visual materials, see what they've done before, and make sure if it's materials to hand out, like one-page marketing, one-pagers, things like that, ask to see it. And it's not necessarily that it has to be good or bad inherently. It's, does it jive with your vibe of what you want to present yourself and your company as? Because someone designs a website or marketing materials or other things for a mommy blogger probably isn't the person to do that if you're a very corporate suit and tie type of organization. And like I said, it's not judgmental. It's not good or bad. It's just a matter of, does their style fit what I need, and see it before you engage with them.
For sure, for sure.
Yeah.
Love it. Okay, so this is, I get a little dopey sometimes here, Mark, and I love to ask this. I actually started asking these questions, this particular next question, when I was doing a lot of interviews for hiring salespeople. I just had to start mixing it up, and so I figured I'd ask it on this podcast because I just think it's an interesting and fun question to ask, and it's completely left field compared to the traditional business questions. So, Mark, I ask you, if you could be a superhero, who would it be, and tell us why?
Oh my gosh. I could be a superhero. Who would it be? I would have to say, I mean, just for fun, Superman, because you can fly. I mean, if you just want to be fun for business, I don't know who it would be. Maybe a brainiac, someone that could read mind. I think that's the guy. I think it's the villain's name, again, with the big head and veins in it. To be someone that can read people's minds would be absolutely awesome.
That would be
So
cool.
much
I would
more
love
could get
that.
done with that. That would be a blast at networking events. You could just tell right away. It's like, we're not on the same page, or oh my God, we
Yeah,
have to know each other.
yeah, right. Exactly, exactly. Okay, so in wrapping up, I like to do one last question before I ask you the traditional, like, how do people find you and where's your website and all that stuff, which we'll do in a second. One of the things I love to do on this podcast is give a shout out to a sales or marketing professional that you think does a really nice job. Because when we post this, we're going to tag them in it. We're going to give them some indication that you think that they do a really nice job in the post. So do you have somebody like that in your network that you think is a really good sales or marketing agency or sales or marketing consultant that you think people really should check out?
Well, just because it's top of mind right now, I would say it was the guest in my interview, Jeffrey Gitomer. I mean, he's one of the best sales coaches in America, blew my mind in a 20-minute interview. And he puts out so much free stuff, blogs, and he calls these little snippets get bits. And you get so much from his newsletter, his website, everything. I mean, he would be the top of the pile for me, without a doubt.
Sounds good. And the funny thing is, in tagging him in this post will probably give it a little bit of a boost. So I appreciate that in both senses. All right. So wrapping this up, Mark, I wanted to thank you for being on the podcast. Before we let you go, how do people get a hold of you? Where are they looking for you? What is the easiest way for them to kind of reach out and touch base with you?
I would love them to check out first my YouTube station. I publish at least one business interview a week, from 8 minutes to 20 minutes to 40 minutes, depending on the format, the show. And you can go directly to my YouTube station by going to markjcartertv.com. That's markjcartertv.com. Hit subscribe, get some awesome content. For everything else about me, including my blog, it is markjcarter.com.
Fantastic. And if you don't remember any of that, you can find Mark on smarketingconnect.com as well. So we'll be the secondary source
go-between
for you there. Yeah, exactly. So Mark, I thank you very much for being on the podcast today. I appreciate it so much, and look forward to our next adventure.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it. It's been fun. It went by so fast. Oh my gosh.
And for all you guys out there, keep selling.